A police watchdog says it's investigating if a taser fired at a man doused in fuel caused him to die of serious burns. The Independent Police Complaints Commission said its inquiry would examine why officers had used the weapon against the 32-year-old man from Plymouth. Angus Crawford reports.
To his family, he was a fantastic son and a dear brother. Andrew Pimlott, now dead from horrific burns. Police called to this house found him holding a can of fuel. It's not clear what happened next, but he was engulfed in flames, and a taser was used. The police watchdog, the IPCC, says our investigation will be looking at what information was known to the officers attending the scene. The officers' rationale for discharging a taser on a person known to be doused in flammable liquid, and whether the discharge caused the fuel to ignite.
Put down the bat! Taser, taser!
There are more than 12,000 tasers on the streets of England and Wales in the hands of specially trained officers. In 2011, they were fired more than 1,000 times. Police say because they're replacing the use of firearms, they're actually saving lives. But there have been increasing numbers of complaints about their use. Here, while the man is on the ground. In another, a taser was used on a blind man when police mistook his cane for a sword.
With firearms, there is a very long training process. With the taser training, it's 3 days. So I've always said that it's not long enough for the risk and consequences.
Frontline officers have called for a tripling in the numbers of tasers. For them, it's a lifesaver, protecting both the police and the public. But campaigners fear it's becoming a weapon of first choice, leading to injuries and, on rare occasions, even death. Angus Crawford, BBC News.
Well, let's talk now to Richard Taylor, who's an anti-taser campaigner. Good afternoon to you. What's your reaction to this case?
Good afternoon. Well, I'm very happy to see police firearms units, those highly trained and highly experienced officers, have access to taser to be used as an alternative to a conventional firearm. I hope that what this case does is it raises questions and starts debate about to what extent should other officers, neighbourhood officers and response officers, have the weapons, because that's what we've been seeing over recent years. Without any sort of clear debate or clear political decision, we've seen more and more police officers who are not members of these firearms teams routinely armed with taser weapons.
Why is that a problem? Why are you against them?
Well, I think it's a problem. As one of the last people who spoke on the piece said, it's about training and experience. Now, the amount of training that these normal police officers get on taser, on the weapon itself, is all right, but they're not experienced officers. They don't have that breadth of training and experience that the specialised firearms teams have. So I would rather the taser weapons be restricted to just the highly trained firearms units. Because one of the problems we've got is that it's very difficult for a police officer to know what will happen when they pull a trigger on a taser. You don't know whether the person is on drugs. You don't know how they're going to fall when they lose all voluntary control over their muscles. So quite what happens next after you pull that trigger is that there's a lot of risk involved.
But we have American experience to draw on as well here, of course, and they've been fired several million times, and there was a government advisory committee that talked about only a couple of hundred complications.
Well, what we're seeing, though, is we're seeing an increased use of taser as more officers in the UK are getting these weapons, and these weapons are being deployed more. And what I want to see is police use of force being proportional. And I would question whether, when we're seeing increased use of taser, are we actually seeing more violent incidents? And I don't think we are. I think what's happening is our police response is changing, and I'm opposing that, because I really think it might well damage the relationship between the public and the police in this country, and really change the way this country feels. We have a tradition of unarmed policing and policing by consent, so I don't want us to move towards policing by force, and I don't think that any element of a UK police officer's power or authority should come from the weapons that they're holding.
Are they really comparable with guns?
Well, they are recognised in law. They're treated as a firearm. They're certainly They are a weapon which our police force uses. In that way, we need to regulate them and ensure that the officers who are using them are incredibly well trained. So that's where the parallels come in.
You could, of course, argue that it saves lives or at least stops many incidents escalating.
Well, I would. What I would like to see is I would like to see just the most highly trained officers with them. And there's a question of, so if a police officer is to use a baton, which might well be the alternative to a taser, in my view, the officer using a baton really knows exactly what level of force that they are using, and that they are better placed to use a proportional level of force rather than an officer who is merely sort of pressing a button, pulling a trigger on a taser, and then waiting to see what happens.
OK, well, Richard Taylor, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.